I was here when everybody was doubting Thinking Man against Moist Shopify, and I was also doubting. I was also one of those doubters, but we just saw a 13-3 take place where Thinking Man just absolutely dominated on Split for map 1, and this is really not what we were expecting. Chef, you were mentioning it right at the end of the map. We were talking, you know, what does Thinking Man need to do? Uber, you were talking about it as well. They need to win the pistols. I mean, hey, they won the pistols, but they won so much more than that, Uber.
Yeah, I don't even feel like, I mean, obviously winning both pistols is very, very good, but for me, it was really about like some of those anti-eco rounds and again, like some crucial gun rounds. Thinking Man gave MXS nothing for free, not a thing. So many rounds on Split, I think, can be often decided by like defensive, like incorrect guesses by the defensive side. Maybe like a site is too loosely held. Maybe they get pulled into rotations too quickly and get punished as a result of that. The Thinking Men, they were like gargoyles, bro. Like until there's nighttime, they are not moving. Really beautifully holding down. Like they have to play the map without a lot of info, right? They don't push up on A, they don't push up on B. They have to trust each other a lot. And the play through mid and the little variations from them really paid off.
I think there was, I mean, again, I'm just going to go out there and say it like I know, which I definitely don't, but there was just too much respect given to Reformed on his initial B setups, I think, by MXS. The fact of the matter was we only saw them try to burst hit towards the site 3 times, and twice it worked out nicely. So it's one of those situations that's just like, hey, I get it. You know, you don't want to play into the Cypher over towards B, especially with how good Reformed was at kind of finessing his life and delaying to wait for help like he had last week versus Oxygen. But really, MXS never tried the B site outside of the one round where Thinking Men decided they wanted to try to throw a curveball and push into B main. There was never really any looks over towards B at all. And the fact that MXS only got the spike down 3 times, I think goes to show that there was a bit of overthinking maybe done by MXS to how do we counter this Thinking Men setup? Where on the other side, retrospectively, just Thinking Men just polished things up. The quick, fast rotations from Reformed in particular when there was a hit towards A saved them a lot of rounds, especially when considering the execution looked good on MXS's side. The Cosmic Divide blocking off tower, the Gravity Well deep towards screens. It didn't matter. There was already players on site. It's just, again, it felt like Thinking Man just was a step ahead the entire way through this one. And also that light bulb and their logo shining bright right now because that was as polished as we've seen for any team on this map in Challengers this year.
Which is crazy, right? Because this is the same Thinking Man that we saw losing a 13-3 map to Oxygen. And when you see 13-3, 13-4, you do start to get worried about those teams. And that was really our concern today before we jump into that map number 1 is Thinking Man, did they have the time to make the improvements, to make the changes, to make sure that they were enough to win? And they win this map number 1 in an extremely convincing way against one of the favorite teams that we have in Challengers. So I think that is already a statement by itself, but I'm also very interested to see if they're able to keep this up. In this second map, this is a map of Breeze for our second one that we haven't gotten the chance to see for any of them in this Challenger season. And this is where different things can also play out really well for Thinking Man. Uber, maybe Reform on holding the operator, continuing with the Sentinel, locking down those sites, but also adding a little bit more of that aggressive style that he likes to do every single time. And I think that is something that on Breeze needs to be stopped. You cannot play with fear on the other side for Moist Shopify because that is what was really holding them back, it seemed.
Yeah, I mean, on Breeze, like you can expect to see Reform filling a very similar role as he did on Split Defense, right? Be a solo anchor player on a site. Allow your team to gamble onto the A site more commonly, or you link up with the Viper player of Scrubble Bubble and you sort of hold that B site down. So again, in that aspect, it's pretty similar. Here, though, you don't get punished as bad for sort of that contact play. It's a long range map. I think paint now comes much more into the equation. You know what I mean? Right. Obviously, you know, the jet element is always a big one. To what degree are you able to facilitate? And what I'm looking for right now is actually teams on A side defense that can actually interrupt, and execute a push onto that A site, sort of defensively, like flash through. This is something that we've seen quite a few teams do, like flash through their own defensive Viper wall and be able to come out and sort of interrupt there. And I like to see Astra on this map. I think Winthrop are a good example of a team that uses, halls quite effectively here. Actually, it might have been Sad, sorry. But yeah, like a deep smoke in halls on the attacking side to scale up and get control. and sort of be able to pinch through door into A. So there's a few things I'm like looking out for, especially because we have no data from these guys yet.
Yeah, I think that this is one that you show up to the casino and you put your money down on Black. And Black, in this case, is that battle between Mata and Paint. This is where you assume that Mata is going to have the ability to pop off. Now, the thing about it is, can Thinking Men put themselves into a position to continue to use the strengths that they had from the last map? In particular, I'm talking about resource exchange. Can you find ways to set up Reform to not feel like he's got to hold on by himself with 5 players running at him? Can you get some good utility delay off of things like a probable a KO? Can you get things to help delay off of things like a Viper Wall, Poison Cloud? Can you just find ways to try to get your team set up in the same positions that they had previously? I think defensively, this is going to be a huge focus for Thinking Men. Offensively, it is a lot of, like, to put it plainly, flash and dash type entryways with a couple of smokes to control space or a couple of Poison Clouds, Viper Walls to like control a little bit of the dissection of the map. But I would put my money that this is going to be a big 1v1 battle between Paint and Mata, and I would figure that we're going to have a pretty big disparity between the kill differential at the end of the map, whether it goes for one player or the other. But I just have a feeling this map is going to be decided by our duelists.
And that is usually the way that Breeze goes, right? The way that who's initiating the most kills, who's getting the 5v4, who's setting up the team for success. And when it comes to the duelists, we are expecting the Jet for the most part, but we're also not sure. Again, we haven't seen this map for any of the two teams on what it was week number 1 and week number 2. So it is interesting because I'm also getting feels of what the last week match was between Turtle Troop and Winthrop, where Turtle Troop was a clear favorite, and then Winthrop just came with a completely different idea, looking like a completely new team. Renewed, aggressive, and really capitalizing out of every single advantage that they had. But we gotta see if it's gonna also play out the same way that it did for those two teams on this specific match between Moist Shopify and Thinking Men. We're gonna jump into the map number 2. We're gonna see if it's gonna be a 2-0 or if it's gonna be all the way to the third map of Bind that I think we all want to see, but we get the chance to look at the compositions. Yeah, it's gonna be that Jet duel, and once again, guys, I leave you up to it.
Thank you very much, Dan. I want to level with you. You know, we kind of talked a lot about sort of how strong Thinking Men have been. I also do think, and I say this respectfully, MXS were absolutely atrocious on Split. Genuinely, like you really do have to create your own openings on that map. If you just walk up into those defensive setups, you're just going to get absolutely trashed here. So this is a map where like they've got to be proactive. They've got to leverage Mata, I think, in a big way here. Brock is an incredible Sova player. But again, these comps are well known. There's nothing special. I mean, Winthrop played Reyna on this map. I think Moves plays Reyna here. So there are some teams that are trying to experiment a little bit with some comps. Sometimes we see Gecko, but this is stock standard. You have to be winning this kind of map with these kind of standard compositions. There's no excuse for MXS.
Yeah, and I think, you know, on the other side, as impressive as Thinking Men was in map number 1, I hate to kind of play the other side of the fiddle here. I don't anticipate them being as locked down defensively on this map as they were on Split. That'll be a conversation we save for the second half because they do have to start on offense. But the other part of the picture here is, hey, we talked about it at the pre-show. Thinking Men, great when they find eco advantages. And that was a staple throughout all of map number 1. So I think, you know, depending on which perspective you like, which I imagine for most people watching right now, whether it be on the main channel or through watch parties, they're probably looking at this from MXS's perspective, which means, hey, don't let them do that anymore. Win a pistol, find a way to get an op into Mata's hands, and you feel like this series will come back more into what you've known this MXS team to look like over the course of this calendar year to this point.
Here we go. Thinking Men on the attack side. You don't have to think back too far to sort of remember how MXS languished under this pressure from Thinking Men. We didn't see a lot of their attacking side on Split, though. It was because they were so good in that first half. I really want to see mid used as effectively as possible here by MXS. Try not to give it up. You can see like with Mata and Flyer are positioned here as well, like they're double face out of tunnel. That's something that's worth keeping an eye on here. And again, it will be, you know, Odashima as that sort of loose link here over at A. They gamble towards mid here. MXS got to start on the right foot.
Yeah, and this is an expectation that I think we're going to see out of all the top teams is get your Jet into mid from the defensive side of things. Whatever you want to spend to do it, just make it happen. And this time it's a Viper's Wall that allows them to at least get some elbow control. But the play through Tube falling back down into mid is a bit of a different look. Thinking Men trying to see if there's any contact up towards the top side of Tube. Again, just trying to look for the intel first before possibly converting, but not seeing anything up top. They're going to gamble stack over towards B, where Mata is essentially waiting over on elbow, but you see the ping in the minimap, Mitch. This is very much so expected for Thinking Men.
Marta wait on this angle. Paint to tentatively swing it. Marta will take the body shot and be happy with it here. Good, solid mid presence now for MXS. Flyer also positioned to get a bit of info now. That's a default snake bite, if I'm not mistaken here. 0 point from MXS, gets 0 info, and now we're headed back towards mid.
Yep. Yeah, Reformed is saying, guys, I'm already pretty deep here over towards top tube. The only thing is they only have a poison cloud to keep them safe through this cross. And there's just enough pixels for Mata to scout out the first. And now Reformed is also a bit stuck up top. Decent trades come through, but this is a very disjointed offense until Reformed wins a miraculous 1v2 up top, leaving Odashima in the site by himself and Vic on the flank. Lots of things to look at, and Reformed continues to impress. Wow, that is a heroic play from Reformed top tube to get 3.
Okay, starting on the right foot. Thinking Men instead. I like the idea from MXS here, but they essentially funnel, right? They're trying to sort of receive that push for Thinking Men straight up mid. I like the reposition here, and I think it's, you know, it's pretty telling that that 0 point from MXS doesn't spot anything towards B main, so they have to know they've pulled out, and they still get crushed there on the cross.
Yeah, it really is just a battle of trying to bait out the utility wherever possible for the side of Thinking Men, and that late Toxic Screen, of course, pulls the defense out just a touch, which makes Reformed's position that much more secure, because if anyone's going to challenge him, it has to be through the top side at door. And the fact that he's able to kind of go 1 for 3, I mean, we'll call it was a flat-out 1v2 that he was able to win. It's the difference maker, because Mata was in prime position to win that out through mid at double doors. It cuts off one side of that offensive push completely, and single-handedly looked like that was going to be enough until that position at tube became the next vantage point for Thinking Men. No spike plant needed, just play for the kills. And then the rotation from the defenders was just too hard pressed to find any ground to work with outside of where they were essentially trapped at. Vic on one side and Odashima on the other, where he's just completely locked down into sight. So it's another one of those things, man, where again, I feel like Thinking Men are doing a really nice job of reading and reacting to what they're getting on these hits.
Yeah, I mean, everyone you talk to, you know, talks about Breeze as a shooting map, right? But there's a heck of a lot you can do to mitigate the variance that can come from holding these long sight lines and trying to find one taps, right? That's what Thinking Men want to be trying to lean into here. Eliminate that variance at all costs, especially if they walk into a match maybe fearing that they're pound for pound like a slightly weaker team or less experienced as a unit, I think would be a fair assumption to make here. But look at this, the gamble stack towards A. Can you sniff this out as Thinking Men?
Yeah, it's one of those things for MXS, you kind of have to hedge your bets a little bit. I mean, you've got a solo spy cam defending B right now, essentially, hoping that you can just find decent contact. There would be an opportunity for Mata to jump into mid pretty quickly if he did feel like there was some pressure. But look at this. I mean, Paint's sitting here saying, guys, I don't see anybody nor anything in my way here at top tube. And if he gets the back plat, this round's just over. There's just no way you hold that position as Thinking Men and then lose out on a B site.
Oh, yeah. He's going all the way.
Yeah.
Paint now in a position to backstab. Doesn't want to give the game away too early, but will take 2 and all the way to the bank. Thank you very much. Yep. Just Flyer left on the A side now. What a terrible scenario to be in.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's just a byproduct of, again, classics being purchased into, but this is 2 rounds in a row where MXS have been worked through tube. So even though it is too early to set trends and patterns, it is something that MXS is going to be worried about. I promise you that coming into these next rounds. So the question will be, do they commit Odashima to throwing more resources there? No, this time it'll be Mata playing up top at mid. That is not an unknown condition. It just comes down to, will he be able to continue to work that space? Because as he brings in a round 3 operator, you don't want that to be limited to having to stick to defense towards top tube. So we'll be interested, I think, just to see what MXS decide to deal with this big gun on the floor.
Yeah, without a double controller setup that some teams are trying right now, it's kind of hard to guarantee yourself like getting up and, you know, past halfway into halls. So you basically have to face down or hold it passively at the start of the round. It's just not a great use of your time, I feel, in a lot of these early rounds. 3 from elbow here, though. And, of course, we have one bringing up the rear and mid. That's going to be Scrubble Bubble. And MXS are giving it up.
And Brock, who has to spend the Aldrome to clear out tube, has no way to check all the way through mid. So this nest position for Paint is also a spot that they could use to control the backside at mid. And really, Brock just has to stay here. He can't move. He has to watch mid.
Brock here opting out of that, giving up even more of the map. Potentially, of course, allowing Paint to cross Over towards that A side. That's
Huge
nice
pick.
from Flyer. Drifts out there, able to pick up Leah. Scrabble Bubble there, obviously looking for the trade, and Flyer is not going to oblige.
And the thing is, that elimination makes MXS that much more secure that the hit through front A is not going to be where this comes from. So they can feel like they can invest a player to watch over towards that deep mid connection. What would normally stretch them out has now just become a kind of moot point. Knife reveals 2. That's huge. Quick transition back over, and because of this nest position, Vic is by himself, already flashed over the top. Cyber Cage to assist him a little while longer, and Vic provides. Oh my goodness, does he ever! 3 for Vic, and that may just lock in the round.
Another day at the office for Vic. That is beautiful. Again, he's in a bit of a weird off angle here, and the cloud burst actually makes it harder for Thinking Men to find him. A whopping 4 kills for Vic on that round. The only player at B, because we saw that Otoshima couldn't get there with that nest position taken up. These are the things you can't count on. These are the things that only someone like Vic can give you.
And that's the thing, we saw that all last week. I mean, you talked about in the pre-show, the amount of doubles and triples that he had per round in their matchup versus Core was unreal. This is ridiculous. Unbelievable, ridiculous. Throw your synonym on it, whatever you want. And that's just what he's good for with this squad. All he needed was 1 Cyber Cage to pop. That's enough for him to find a pixel peek, plus a little bit of finesse over the wall. And then this map becomes just, like you mentioned, a gunning map for Vic. Hop out from Mata, tested, has to get away, but Flyer right there to recover. Good first blood again. MXS take early numbers.
Yeah, you see just how threatening that is. Mata having to tailwind away here.
Oh.
And here it is. You just hold the passive angle, right? Take some contact in halls with that double initiator setup. Thinking Men are more than happy to equalize the player total here, but they're not expecting Vic probably to be so advanced. Oh, yeah, take it back. They were prepared for that. 4-player swing, and Vic is lucky to get out alive.
This does create some unknown quantities, though, for MXS. Otoshima, this is bold. He's going to hear a lot of this. Oh, but he gets picked! So all of his utility towards B now becomes a non-factor, and that means that MXS, anticipating a quick hit, have rotated off, and the commitment is in. Flyer, good for 2 somehow on 1 bullet, essentially, worth of health. That gives the defense a chance, but the problem is the op can only look at literally 1 thing at a time, and Scrubble Bubble 2 through mid, 2 on the site, collects 4, and Thinking Men are still, they are outplaying MXS as a team right now.
I mean, that 4-player stack towards Spawn that faced Vic down drew the rotate out, and Flyer was able to get back into the A site, which is great, but he does so, suppressed him with 60% HP after the decay down, so awkward. The fact that he gets 2 kills there is honestly astounding, but then you have that uncomfortable operator retake scenario on that A site. For Mata, it's just hard to find anything.
Wow. I mean, I'm impressed, Mitch. This defensive look from Split, now countered by some really good offensive timings for Thinking Men with a lot of variety, has continued to peep MXS. Just, I would just generally say, kind of a bit baffled. And now you're going to have to make some really strange commitments. You've got Vic with the Sheriff in Spawn. I don't even know what his intention would be from this spot. Maybe just to rotate to wherever contact gets
It's the crow's nest push.
Yeah, but it's just this is the only way you watch over towards mid at all. There's so many unknown instances to what Thinking Men could be doing, and honestly, this passive defensive setup is still very vulnerable to a flood. They could just run right through this.
There is, I think Vic is set up for a snake bite at B main here. I think that is the lineup, so you can delay to some degree, but getting rotations from across the map is going to be very challenging. You've got 1 in halls.
Yeah.
But outside of that, very limited opportunity. And Thinking Men are more than happy to wait this out. They now see the R drone. That's going to go bye-bye very quickly. Okay, here's a recon. And okay, Null Command. This could be a problem now. We'll have to push up towards that corner by Brock. He'll try and hold close. Definitely heard that. I think it brings him down through the wall. That is huge. Oda was able to find one, and here comes Vic. On board with Brock as he sees Leah slink away, tail between legs. That's gone horribly wrong for Thinking Men.
Yeah, it really has been. Mata has been figured out, though, so there is a chance to open up space over towards A, but, I mean, that was simply put just Brock avoiding all of the utility plus the owl drone to get 1 and allow Otoshima a little bit of a freer angle to play out his life. This will still be a spike plant, though, and I don't want to rule this out. I mean, you're going to have a 2v4 situation. Just a recon dart plus potentially Reform with the kill could get an Earl theft off to try to make this a little bit more manageable.
Is that recon? Reformed is ahead of it here. It's going to be dangerous, but the high-low setup there is good for MXS. And Otoshima finds his 3rd of the round. Great recovery which was a weird one. Cypher utils today, but Otoshima himself over at B, and Vic holding in spawn with that really long-range snake bite to buy some time. Beautiful round for those two MXS players, Shift, that really have to hold it down against the B flood.
They get all 5. 3 for Otoshima, 2 for Brock. I mean, at that point, it's just... You know, you can't teach that. I think it's kind of what we go to. And it really does, I think, fringe on the fact that Brock really doesn't get figured out over towards that backside at the ledges, over towards the outside of B, and the fragment, the snake bites that were spent, the recon dirt, followed by the Aldrone, and the fact that Brock still shuts down the null command wielding Vix, plus Otoshima on the deep side of the site was never initially the target. He gets an extra angle because of that freedom from Brock. Makes that essentially a 2v5 at the front doors at B that goes increasingly well for MXS. So now the economy starts to take a bit of a shift. For the first time, MXS will have an advantage on the series with the credits. And Thinking Men will kind of default in towards things like knives, maybe a Hunter's Fury, if they find some way to get the spike down.
A bit more of a proactive hold of Halls here, as Otoshima just will be playing that corner. Paint and Reform, though, so be able to play off each other pretty comfortably now. I do like this setup, though, for Mata. It's an odd little angle. Watch the mid doors. You can also trade here on towards the open door. Paint, though, having to deal with Otoshima, as we kind of expected. Now the ring door's going to come up for a second. It's going to be flashed out completely. Here they come. Paint sees no one behind Orange, but the reveal flyer on the other side of Madonna. Paint should be able to wrap around here. And now that very deep attacking Viper wall needs the Paint to set up. Mata's done a beautiful job, though, alongside Vic. But now the 2 versus 2. Spike dropped towards it.
Yeah, that's the trouble position, because there was an opportunity with Scrubble Bubble on the Vipers, but he could have used that to block off double doors and force the defense to rotate around. But the 2 defenders inside the site find a couple of key eliminations, plus they get the spike carrier. So what looked to be just an absolute breakthrough for Thinking Men has kind of gone awry here. Vic timing on the outside of Cave. Whoa! What a shot from Vic! He was second to the fight. It still didn't make a difference. And now Paint's pressed for time in the 1v2.
This isn't a great example of just fantastic anchoring from MXS.
Yeah.
I mean, last round it was on B, now on A. They hold their ground beautifully. That off angle towards double duel, though, I mentioned it briefly. Mata is really able to capitalize on that. If not coming away with all the frags there. That was a really key moment, especially if you knew that halls would be populated by Thinking Men. Great equalizer here for MXS. And it's a bit of pressure starting to build for Thinking Men now. What do they cobble together?
Yeah, I mean, you hit it on the head. That is 2 brilliant bunker up holds for MXS, because the flood was on the way and the dam was leaking water. I'll say it plainly. And the fact that Mata is able to find a couple from inside the site, most importantly, like you mentioned, towards double doors to find the spike carrier, plus they also get Scrubble Bubble out of the picture, is everything. Because as soon as you control top tube like that and you've got Viper Spit available, they could have just popped that at double doors and forced everyone to have to rotate back through bridge. But the players on the site do their job. Maybe they should be earning a little bit of a bonus for the job that was done. So we go to a 3-3 tie, and yeah, Paint's is going to elect to allow himself to be revealed there. That's just to keep the defense a bit more interested over towards mid-top tube, and potentially anyone on pyramids to make sure that cave push is not on the way.
MXS somewhat conditioning Thinking Men here to expect it, just like a contact push-up halls at the start of the round from the defenders, but very much the opposite here. Mata will hold that with the operator. You do have a player at Orange over at A, so very standard setup here defensively. And again, it's a succession of mid.
Yep. It's really curious, though, to see neither team really investing anything, if not players, let alone utility, towards this mid open field at the moment. And knowing, I'm sure, Thinking Men are looking at this saying there's got to be an operator in the play some way. They're not even bothering a top 2, but Mata's getting aggressive. The reveal off the knife was significant, and he may blow this play wide open if he finds the right timing.
He's got it. He's got the timing. Couldn't ask for anything better. Defenseless there was Leah, firing off the Hunter's Fury. Pain Elise is able to down flyer. Brock, though, hitherto undiscovered. Eyes over towards that mid-connector here. But Scrubble Bub's got that high ground positioning. Brock again misses out a little bit. Mata still has knives to work with and is sat on the spike. Played a trade up at his top left here, but won't be necessary right now as Reform drops. Cloud goes for the one-way. Mata trying to reposition. The flash is good, but Otoshima comes in from the top rope, and it's just Scrubble Bubble to try and make it work. Neural Theft to reveal all the best laid plans, and Vic will finish the job.
Yep, another one of those rounds where you just look at Mata and say, "You have it in you, brother?" And he says, "Yep, sure do." I mean, it really is just down to the sheer timing of the whole entire play. And maybe some known quantities for MXS in the last couple saying that, yeah, in the light buys, the pistols, the follow-up rounds, thinking men were getting aggressive towards top 2, but with full weapons, they really haven't given it much interest unless there's knives on the board. So Mata just kind of commits to the operator looking down the long line of it, and then once he doesn't see anything, he's just like, I've got knives as well. Let me pop that, see if I can get a little bit extra forward, and then the opportunity for him to just completely take over the round is wildly available. Bonus that he gets not just one, but it's Lear in a Hunter's Fury, who's the spike carrier. So it's just, once that happens, MXS, I'm sure, are looking at that as the winning play. And yeah, as soon as Mata gets Odashima with him, there was just no way they were letting go of that spike. So another moment where thinking men were on the precipice of breaking through, but the timing gets broken, and that's 3 straight rounds now for MXS.
It's going to come up more than once on this map, right? Breeze is a 4-lane map. I mean, you could suggest more than that, but you can't cover all of those effectively, especially if you're an attacking team that's looking to set up. So you have to commit at some point. You do leave yourself vulnerable. Maybe they're not expecting the Blade Storm, right? That Mata will actually, push into them there. They set up for it at the start of the round shift, but it doesn't come till well and truly later on.
Yeah, absolutely right. And there is an element, again, on top of that, just to kind of throw it out there, neither team is investing too much in towards mid. And I think if you're thinking, man, off this timeout, you got to be saying, we haven't seen an Aldra, we haven't seen a recon dart, we haven't seen much of anything at all. So let's see if we can get some control here. And the knife will be enough to at least keep it neutral, but it does add a question mark to MXS that there could be a hit through double doors, and the defense will have to reposition to deal with that.
Yeah, I mean, they trade the horse control. They don't have this round now for a bit of mid presence. But I like this movement here. And this is just off being spotted by the 0 point, I think, as MXS now start to gamble a little bit heavily towards this A site. And kind of leave Vic to play behind this heavy Cypher util.
Yeah, not knowing if there's going to be a hit immediately coming through double doors, they have to invest somebody else into the site. The other interesting part about this from Thinking Men is the fact that they've got a deep spy cam in towards elbow, and that may be enough for them to not just use mid, but to possibly hit B through 2 different avenues. Now, the only thing for Thinking Men is that their question mark is Mata still at middle? Because he very well may be. They haven't been able to scout that information out all that well. And this little bounce pass of the shock dart also does not reduce any of the current standing Cypher utilities. So there are still issues on both sides, but the longer this takes, the more MXS are pretty sure that this is not going to be a hit through double doors.
Yeah, there's a trip set up, I think, for the sort of jet dash up and forward, but with an operator in hand, Paint won't be doing that.
Nice.
Great timing. Again, Scrabble by to get the better of Brawl here now and drives a wedge between the 2 halves of MXS. Paints onto the site. I tell a lie. He did exactly that. Push straight on in here. Now Vic gives a bit of ground. And guys, Mata, you have to push that angle as Paint there. Mata's able to find Scrabble Bubble, of course, coming in through the middle part of the map, and MXS are able to respond beautifully. Huge recon to set that up if you're thinking, but they can't capitalize.
Yeah, just not enough utility, not enough weaponry to fight that long-range angle. I think the utility part of that is the bigger problem. I mean, when you're having to use things like shock darts to try to clean up some of the site from any of that incoming Cypher utility, which, to be fair, it really didn't, then you're limited on how much more is left to get the back corners of the site. And when you're just dealing with sheriffs and an operator, the simple fact of the matter is you just have to hit shots, and they're not easy. So a decent attempt, again, for Thinking Men on a low-buy round. But for MXS, they have stayed really stalwart on these defensive setups inside the site, and now you've got something different. Vic has already pushed through B main for the first time. He's going to hold an off angle right on the corner. It just comes down to how disciplined are Thinking Men. Will they check this, and can they at least go 1 for 1?
Vic's about to get busy. 1, 2, and 3. Vic always good for more. And why not finish the job? 4 kills taken there by Vic, just deciding to push that corner. And it all is down to Scrabble Bubble here. How do you summarize a round like that?
I got you. Oh. You ready? You ready for this one, Mitch?
Yeah,
This is some major big brain.
Okay.
Vic good, shoot well, win
kill.
round. I mean, it's just like we talked about this with like a proto yesterday or the last week as well.
It's your gun round.
I mean, it's just, when you've got a player like that can take 1v multiples, it just makes life so easy. The fact that Vic kind of throws a curveball this round as well by just playing forward and he comes away with this is ridiculous. Because at best, you're thinking he goes 1 for 1, or maybe at worst, you think he goes 1 for 1 considering it's Vic. And Moist just say, okay, we still have the Cypher behind it. We really don't miss out on much, but that's just Vic, shoot good, click well, win round, flat out.
Fantastic variation. Obviously, there's no conditioning of that at all this map. Vic able just to throw a curveball in here and there. And on such a high value round, that is backbreaking for Thinking Man. Look at this buy. It's horrendous. Tank here, more than happy to be sat down out of the round and get the punishment over and done with.
Yeah. And this is where you feel like MXS is back into their normal form. I mean, it's just crazy that it comes by a way of heroic holds. 3 rounds of heroic holds in a row. And then all of a sudden, Mata pops off from behind. Vic now the round before. And Thinking Men are on a limited buy, so MXS can just pull out their "we're better than you" playbook, which looks like this, to be fair, where Mata is just doing whatever the heck he wants. Oh my god, if he hits that, I throw my computer out the frickin' window.
Scrabble up there. Yeah, not a scratch on him after that, but Brock, of course, will be able to recover the operator. And Bob's your uncle, MXS, out to the 7-3 lead. And they are working with a heck of a lot as well. I mean, the Hunter's Fury coming up now is quite timely. Vic, I mean, if he ever was not interested in just killing everybody, could obviously just throw a Viper Spit down immediately at A main or in B main and funnel away from the site.
And I think you do that here, if you're Vic, just to create issues for Thinking Men, because you win this one, you win the half convincingly. You put a 9-3 on the scoreboard. So this would be the round where Vic, I think, would invest such a tool just to kind of, again, keep Thinking Men at bay just a touch. But instead is going to play a little more passive behind the order is set up.
What? Sorry.
No! Stop this! Stop that!
It's the shooting map, brother.
Jesus.
Honest Fury here. Actually yields limited information about anybody up holes here.
I'll say.
Maybe Otoshima hears. Maybe he hears Reform to have to sort of, move to dodge those shots. Either way, he's gotten pretty deep up holes. Mata's going to be stuck in this corner. There's no running out now. Yeah, right, well, they're ready for Reformed either way. Vic's taken out immediately by Mata, but he needs to get out of this corner. Teammates will help him to that effect. Mata just swings, finds Vic, so this is getting out of hand now. Thank God the half's almost done. Thinking Men need a breather.
Oh, that's so tough, too, because I'll play the other fiddle here and look at Thinking Men and say 5, 6, and 7 were very winnable rounds for Thinking Men. Without question. I mean, they had perfect executes on paper in terms of how you break through. The difference was MXS held their ground, won a couple of unbelievable 1v2s essentially on the site. I mean, those were 2v5s, essentially 3 straight rounds that they were able to win. And then after that, it's the individual pop-offs. Mata in round 8, Vic in round 9, the team going for pretty much a flawless in round 10, and then the Zenny flawless completely in round 11. And now you're on to last hopes where a lingering Viper Spit could be playing, and MXS have gotten their confidence and their swagger back, so they're going to start walking into you. It's just, that this is about it.
Lear at least able to find a trade here. Brock just swings the wall happily, and we'll set up now. Viper Spit by the attackers set down. And then we'll, of course, extend into the site and allow for a plant here. Brock has the Aldra.
There's not a lot of space for that plant to come through, and Lear has probably broken a mouse. That is 2 straight Hunter's Furies that he's barely been able to get one of the darts off on. And this half is done and dusted. It's one of those things.
Ship it, bro. Ship this one.
It's just, again, like, if you wanted to compare 9-3 halves to split to now here, there are 3 rounds in there where Thinking Men are kicking themselves saying we should have won those rounds. And this is a totally different half. But it's still a lot of credit that the individual skill for MXS is coming to play, man. And when they get that going, they're a hard team to beat.
That feels like a miscalculation from Lear. The fact that you can quite easily skirt around the edge of that Viper's Pit.
Yeah.
Maybe just play a little bit further back. That's, again, very, very frustrating. Last time, of course, caught out by Mata coming down from the top of halls. 3 rounds. Okay, we have a bit of a theme here. And for some reasons, this occurs. Here, it just means you're getting absolutely rolled.
Yeah, no 9-3 curses to this point. And again, the sample size is too small for us to sit here and try to paint pictures of if Thinking Men are just a better defensive squad, because they're in the same boat that MXS was last map. You essentially have to win this pistol to put yourself in a position to even get to gun rounds. So MXS will get the quick plant. As I said from the first map, I'll reiterate it here. They are probably, if not the best team in quick post plant 5v5. So tall task here for Thinking Men to break this down.
Oh, I love this. They pulled 3 players back. They're expecting some action down halls now at this point in the round. It's only Brock that's playing towards A main and does get lit.
Huge.
They can't trade this.
And that's your post-plant security off your mollies as well, because the whole flank that was coming through mid is now red. That is a massive double push over through tube side, and Mata will be taken down, so the stat does not come true here. That's just all simply put, you get rid of Vic. If Vic stays alive and can get both those snake fights off, MXS walk away with that round, no question, with that 3-man wrap through mid.
Yeah, that's wild to me. They pulled 3 players back. I guess if you're in that molly position, there's actually a position you can throw mollies from that's much closer to halls than that and makes it harder to see you from halls without exposing yourself. That, I think, is the sort of, oh, it's not old school, but you know, it was the original position, like right back towards the shoreline. You could do it up against the wall on the right if you're looking from the top of the attacker's side. So
yeah.
There might be more safety in changing that position up. Either way, that's pretty frustrating for MXS, but they built themselves quite an impressive buffer here. And of course, they're feeling themselves a little bit. Surely one round like that isn't enough to put them off.
No, because you just look at that and say, well, Vic got killed. Oh, well, like that's it, flat out. So now it's just down to what could MXS create to try to make this Thinking Man defense really get stretched out, because they can really securely hide behind Paint's sniper rifle on one side. He's also got support from Vix with the Bulldog, which is good. The Owl Drone will see nothing's at mid, so now Lear can make a decision if he wants to commit to either side or not. And the only avenue that's really open is this one here. But I will say, Reformed is watching it, and if there's ever a player you want to watch this cross, it'd be him. And yep, that's enough information for MXS to say we're not particularly interested in hitting it, at least not immediately.
They take a beat, though. They still want to pressure it. The double pump here. Scrabble above with 2 players to face down. Goes to 15 HP. Spike loose there. Cyber Cage Zeus for thrown up and cover. Any backstab. Otoshima, though, is finally able to bring that Viper down, but the trade is there. Brawl caught inside B main. Viper wall up, and Marta's going to be able to find 1, 2v3. Anything possible at this point now, especially if Vic had the off angle. It's going to be the 1-for-1. Marta v2. Little bit too much to ask for, but at least you keep a lid on this Thinking Man economy.
And really cool duality, just to kind of point to the micro for Thinking Men. You've got a Guardian and a Spectre on the B site. It's Scrubble Bubble with the Guardian, Reformed with the Spectre. And because Reformed sees that play through Cave first, that's enough for Scrubble Bubble to turn the attention, saying, I've got you on the long range angle, you take that SMG up front, and they both collect an individual kill at that little transition. So it's not just, hey, I've got your tunnel cross, hey, I've got your front main. It's let's put the right people in the right spots once we get that information, and that is uberly successful for Thinking Men to now bring this back to more level terms. This bonus would be massive, though, on the same foot, though. If they can find a way to take this, we're dancing again.
They actually have Paint snuck over here towards the B site, and he's actually going to watch mid here, so...
Spike down A.
Okay.
Oh, buddy, not ideal. That was the spike, by the way. Flyer spotted out there, brought down by the Guardian once more. Paint scaling deep into mid here.
And that's the thing, is he can just stay here to watch this double door cross. He doesn't have to get the content through that poison cloud. But he hears the footsteps. He hears the footsteps. Shots aren't perfect, but eventually get collected. Now you got weapons, and Thinking Men are back to their dastardly ways.
Otoshima at least able to trade it. That was a rifle dropped by MXS, though. See that money? They cannot be afford to throwing any more of those away. Marta at least with the operator in hand, and I fancy a bit of a longer angle towards B, but there's all that Cypher util to fight through. You do, of course, have the ability to break it in B main, but this Cypher util has been placed further back from B main, like the standard spot. And yeah, that doesn't do anything. It does not clear this util at all.
Spy Cam will read it. Reformed is still completely unknown. Help from above, but Mata's just a little bit different. Otoshima able to now use that for a chance to get the neural theft off. And the only thing about this is Biggs has gotten to this angle very quickly, but not quick enough. Time a bit of an issue, but the plant's going to come through, and everyone's looking down main towards Scrubble Bubble, who knows that he is going to be figured out, and he may just have to just back up and save this.
I mean,
or find a weapon.
Thinking Man, in a pretty good spot, right? Like, they are bonusing here, essentially. I think we had Paint walking around with just a sheriff and traded up, albeit for a brief moment for, for a proper rifle. So, Scrubble Bubble, though, not incentivized to push in. Would love, though, to inflict some financial catastrophe on this MXS team, who have a chance now to stabilize.
And think back to the other micro moment as we were watching Mata just do his circus tricks, juggling both weapons over towards B. That was, again, just enough, a little bit of toggle to allow Brock to go back and pick up the operator with the successful execution towards B. So little things starting to matter here for MXS. Saw it in the first half, the 3 rounds in a row where it was 2v5s essentially onside the defense were able to hold. And now you got a little bit of juggling going on with the weapons as we take a look at that first blood. which was all just meant to be a check for information going a bit awry, but MXS successful attack towards B puts them back up 5, and now we got our first true gun round for both teams.
Yeah, I guess it was just a shoulder pick off the rope. You never expect to get killed on those, but it does happen. Especially on low ping, just quietly. Group up here towards A main now. Okay, we'll have that standard Viper wall thrown out. Defense, you can pop through this one, but it's normally just to inflict that debuff on the attackers moving up. I like the preemptive snake fight here. This slows Mata down enough that he's subject to the spike cam dart. The Vix brought Scrubble buff down already.
Yeah, and the thing about this is it's just down to if the defenders can even get footing back on this site. I mean, they really don't have any tools, and you've got Paint with an operator. You don't anticipate him finding too much value. It's a great fragment coming through. Does find a bit of chunk damage, but the kills aren't there. And that will be the end of the attempts as Paint will back out of sight. Lear will do whatever he can, which is not much. 6 shot from Brock. And another successful quick hit comes out of MXS, even taking the operator out of hand. Is any flawless for their 11.
And very quickly, that economy broken there for Thinking Men. They get put between a brook and a hard place with that operator played close on the A side. Dirty stuff.
Yeah.
And we have a timeout here, justifiably. Again, this is less about this round, but probably the one following here. Because you do not have a buffer. You probably got to make the decision here if you're just going to force into it for the rest of the game. And this is the result of Thinking Men having such an atrocious first half. You have to make these hard decisions now. Otherwise, MXS are going to run away with it. Mata really coming alive. My goodness.
Yeah, I was about to say, I mean, this is kind of, you know, what we talked about in the pre-show. This map, as much as we often thought that Thinking Men was just more polished as a squad on Split, this map could simply be decided between the jet difference. We know what Mata brings to the table. Paint, he's been good, sure, but is he at like top of the VCL NA leaderboard when it comes to duelist play? Absolutely not, especially on maps like this where you rely on a jet diff to possibly happen. And that's what we've got. A 3.0 KD for Mata on one side, a 0.5 KD on the other for Paint. It's not been a 1v1 that's determined it, but obviously the efficacy of what we've gotten from Mata has been astronomical compared to that of Paint.
Yeah, and a lot of it actually not really with the operator. Mata got caught in some uncomfortable positions at times in that first half, having to like retake with an up. It's really been about that sort of raw aggression he's been able to manufacture with the rifle play. Again, like set up here to potentially receive like an A pop, just a tailwind out from Paint. But again, with an early 0 point, this kind of swayed the defenders from going for that. And he's out in the open, he's splashed. You can't be allowing that to happen here. Broad comes across, Spike did get loose, but they have info on Vix's position. And things have to slow down here for MXS by necessity.
Yeah, because they can't get rid of caves. They can't just rotate back to B because they're already giving up weapons. And they're going to give Thinking Men a chance to actually salvage this Thrifty. So they have to hold this and wait for Otoshima to play the long flank. This will not be a wrap back to B. They will have to commit to trying to take these defenders off the A site simply because they cannot allow them to collect these weapons.
Rourke trying to see if he'd be losing HP to that dart. Both Cyphers wrapping at the same time on different parts of the map. I don't know if MXS are ready for this. They probably should be at this point. I guess they're hoping that Otoshima can see some of that action via halls, but that's not reasonable. Rourke doing well to at least get the one kill here. Reformed has all the info he needs. It's a Cypher 1v1 for the round.
Yeah, the spike is right in front of him. This is all just about when the contact happens. He takes the swing! Otoshima good for the battle, though. Just as he was being pinned, it almost looked like he was fully anticipating, reading his opponent that he's going to wait for the second ping and then immediately challenge me. So let me just hold this hard scope down. But that is a brilliant set of rotations from both Cyphers. For MXS, that was the only play available. You cannot allow Thinking Men on a Thrifty to collect free weapons. You have to hold your position at caves. So Otoshima makes the quick wrap all the way through elbow, up through nest, and towards the back, and he actually collects one trade at the front doors at A to make sure Thinking Men's wrap is not as guaranteed as it was starting to look with Reformed on the other side. So close moments there in what should have been a very comfortable round, but Thinking Men are continuing to make MXS sweat. This time just a little bit more padded considering the 7-round advantage. And well, that's going to probably put it to 13 with the wide open B site and plenty of tools to secure this post plant.
Now, not much more to do here for Thinking Men except try their luck. Mata's already pushed up very close. Reformed attempted to make a foray in from Archers and was very quickly denied. This could get awkward in mid in just a moment. Paint does have the angle. That's a start. Still in 2 versus 4 here with Mata. Holding down, of course, this spawn angle. Paint has good timing as Mata sort of pulls off that just as he heads there. But Brock's able to find Vix. Now the 1 versus 3. Try and keep it alive. Paint. And all but done. A very one-sided breeze here. Thinking Man obviously wanted to go to this map. Kind of, felt comfortable about heading this way. And they were very soon proven to be wrong. A very back and forth game of 2 one-sided maps so far.
Yeah, but I still think, Thinking Men are going to look back on this map and they're going to look at rounds 5, 6, and 7. It just flat out. Those 3 rounds where they had great executions towards sites but weren't able to secure the kills of the defenders that were still on site was the difference maker. Because as soon as MXS find the confidence saying we're 2v5ing these guys on the site with their utility coming at our faces, that's enough for then the advantages for Mata to provide single individual play. So I think if you look back at those 3 rounds, it gives Thinking Men a little bit of a longer chance, but this second half was nothing but MXS through and through. Great ideas from Thinking Men, things that they can look at to polish up and maybe do exactly what they did to split from last week to this week, maybe in the future, but that was definitely a jet diff, flat out right there on Breeze. Mata takeover mode.
It always feels cheap to sort of, include that in your analysis previous, like at the start of a map, but it definitely manifested there. Mata having a great game, and sometimes it's all you need on a map like Breeze to make the difference. Stick around, everybody. We're going to a decider map. I believe it's Bind on the other side of this break, so don't go too far.
Base.